Welcome back to Cantina Talk. I'm here with Jared Holsizer.
Hello, and I'm here with Ryan.
All right, so we just came off of Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4. The Siege is the name of the episode. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. What do you think of this week's episode?
I liked it. I think it's probably one of my favorite episodes. I don't
Wow.
think it's the best yet, but I think it's one of my favorite.
In the whole show?
Um, Not in the whole show, but this season.
Right. What do you like so much about it?
I don't know. He just got back with some like old friends, and he seemed like he had like picked himself up
Right.
from like off the ground, pretty much.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely. No, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had some problems with this episode, I think. Um, and I'll start with the small things I liked really quick. I liked the ending. I thought that was pretty awesome, which we'll dive into in full detail, which will probably be a big chunk of this video. But I also liked the Cara Dune's fight scene with the Aqualish
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot. I think that was pretty well written. I think the fighting in this whole show has been really good. I really like the and spoilers, by the way. I realized halfway through I'm through this, so spoilers. But for this whole episode, I also like the starship fighting scene.
Oh
Where
yeah.
Mando took the
Oof.
Razor Crest. That
Oof.
was, and then when right as he defeats the last tie and the Ludwig Göransson's score comes in, the Mandalorian theme, and it kicks up. Oh man, that gave me Star Wars goosebumps. That was awesome.
Yep.
But and I feel like I don't want to harp on too much bad stuff, so I'll say it really quickly. My biggest gripe with this episode is I feel like it was a I mean the actor that Carl Weathers that plays Grief Karga, he directed the episode, and I think the episode was actually directed pretty well. Although I think Grief Karga, to me, was not well written this episode. Whenever he talked, even when he kept talking over and over about, oh well, I'll cut this many years off your sentence or whatever. It just felt, and then he felt like the guy that was like, he made me realize that this world was fake in a weird way. He just kept going like, "Oh, well, that's the power flux converter, and you don't want to mess with that." And like he just kept bringing up weird spaceship tech or weird
Oh yeah.
sci-fi tech, and I was like, it's
Hmm.
just too much. Like I like Star Wars more when that technology is sitting in the world and it's just there, rather than being shoved in your face at every moment. But the other thing that I think after this episode ended, because I don't actively dislike it, but I don't love it either. And afterwards I was
Hmm.
like, why don't I love it? Because obviously the ending is awesome. Why am I not like frothing at the mouth? Like I've seen a lot of other people, like kind of like you and a lot of other people, like this episode was awesome. And I think that it boils down to the idea in Star Wars that you are going to invade a imperial base in order to weaken their appearance on a planet, right? So that story chunk is everywhere in Star Wars. You see it all the time. The original episode for New Hope. You see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's all over the animated and movies and TV shows, and I think here they didn't. And I say this in my written review. I don't think they innovated on it enough. Um, Obviously, it was original in New Hope, and when you got to it in Rogue One, I feel like in Rogue One it became a heist movie, and it became like like you got to go in and steal this one thing, and you got to make it perfect, And then I feel like
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
Rise of Skywalker, they almost, or not Rise of Skywalker, excuse me, Force Awakens, it almost took on a more comedical or slapstick tone to it a little bit, or a more hijinks tone. And I think that this episode just did it. I think it just did it in the terms of, oh, well, they're going to go in, they're going to shoot a lot of people, and then they're going to get out. And for me, it was that for a whole episode. And I was like, yeah, I've seen this before in Star Wars. Like, I see it all the time in Star Wars, in fact. But then again, it was a good episode. So I just think it didn't wow me like it wowed a lot of other people. Also, I don't want, and in Star Wars sometimes, like, obviously, again, I love this show. I also love this episode. Technically, I'm only comparing it to other Star Wars content and like my ideal Star Wars content, right? So that given it, it's still an awesome episode. I'm still happy to sit down and watch some Star Wars content. But did you go ahead?
What would you rate it out of 10?
I think I gave it a 6.5.
6.5.
And I was leaning towards 7, but I think that, and what was kind of bothering me about it is I don't want to reward, and again, I'm starting to really sound pessimistic on this show. I'm not, but I don't want to reward this show for being okay for 20 minutes and then having 3 shocking minutes each episode. That's what I don't think that's a good way to do a show, and I almost feel like we're dipping into that territory of like, okay, we're gonna have some okay TV for 20 minutes, but then at the last 3 minutes we're gonna really get into Boba Fett and he's back, or we're gonna have some okay minutes, but then you're gonna see Bo-Katan, you know. And if next episode is the same thing, like, oh, it's 20 good minutes, but then you're gonna see Ahsoka, like, I don't know. I think, however, I do like what they're setting up, and I think they do have to answer these questions, and I'm very excited for them to answer the questions. That said, so please don't come at me for hating the show. I really don't. I just expect so much out of the show, especially with what they're teasing. Like, if you're teasing this stuff, you gotta be able to consistently hit it out of the ballpark, in my opinion. And season 2 isn't that for me yet.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's all gonna wrap up into like one episode.
Right. Yeah, and that's my worry.
Unfortunately.
Right.
But
can I tell you my 2 theories I have?
yes.
Okay. Now we're recording this a little late. However, to ensure that I have not looked up anything else, I'm just going to read you what I wrote. I wrote this right after I watched the episode. I hope you like the sound of my voice, and I've joked around that I talk too much on the other episodes, but this episode's going to be egregious because I got to tell you what I think here. So, again, I want to say this, that I wrote this right after I saw the episode. I hadn't even gone online. This has to do with the characters at the end of the episode with Moff Gideon.
Yes.
And kind of like who those were that were in the vats. First, before I tell my theory, what did you think those were?
I was so confused. I thought it was Darth Vader, but I was like, no, there's no way. And then I thought it could be like clones.
Right.
Because there was a little snippet of them like saying they were trying to clone something or somebody, and it wasn't working. So I think it's clones.
Right.
Of some sort.
Awesome. Yeah, so okay, one theory that I have that I'm going to hit you with at the end is going to be insane. But I want you to stay with me for it. So this is one theory I have on who these are, and I think this is probably what it's going to be. This is my less tame theory. So in a couple of the Knights of the Old Republic video games, there were people known as the Shadow Troopers and the Dark Troopers. These were 2 different types of troopers that the Empire has. Now, they're not canon as of current. The Shadow Troopers were Jedi clones mixed with trooper hybrids. And so they were like Force-sensitive trained troopers, which are terrifying if that's really what's in that room, right? Because
that's kind of what I thought it was too, because they said they were taking the blood from the child, and the child's Force sensitive, so if they mix that with clones, it's going to be a Force sensitive whatever.
Exactly. And they even talked about midichlorians in that episode. They called it the child has a high M count, which obviously midichlorians is it's what powers the Force. But so yeah, that was kind of and then Dark Troopers are something different, but they're still cool. And please look out for tomorrow in about tomorrow, I think at 3, I have my full theory that comes out on this, and I have pictures to go along with it. But pretty much, if you Google Dark Troopers, there's like 3 different iterations. The third one looks almost just like what we saw in the room. So I think that's probably what it is. What those are is a hybrid trooper mech version. So what this probably is the Empire trying to bring back droids in a significant way, is what my best guess is. However, if you want, I can go into my crazy theory.
Lay it on me.
Okay, I need you to stay with me and do not discount that. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Here's my theory. The child is Anakin Skywalker?
What?
Can I talk? All right, here we go. I know that was a good reaction. I like that.
What?
All right, hear me out. We know first, so let's go off what we know. Just no speculation, just what we know in Star Wars. We know that the child was born the same year as Anakin Skywalker. We can also assume that the Camino cloning base that we see in Episode 2 was operating at the time of Anakin's birth, unless they built that entire base and all of its technology in the short time, after Anakin was born, but before Episode 2. So let's assume that base was still there when Anakin was born, about, 16, 18 years before we saw it in Episode 2. We also know that Palpatine knew about the cloning facility. Right? He knew that it was there because he was the one that had Dooku go and plant the chips. We also know that Palpatine created Anakin Skywalker inside of Shmi's stomach, right? So we know that Palpatine is Anakin's father. We found this out in Darth Vader comic number 25. And again, in 2 days, I have this theory coming out. And I've screenshotted the comic and put it in the theory. So you can see where the comic says it for itself. That is canon. So that is, in Star Wars lore. So we know that Palpatine's Anakin's father. So that's all we know for a fact. Now here's what my theory is. And I don't think it's crazy, although honestly probably not true. Here's my theory. Palpatine found a child. Now he found a child that looked like Yoda, right? A species which Palpatine knows is incredibly attuned to the Force. Or as they say in the episode, has a high M count, right? So he found a species which midichlorian count is so high above any other race. And he found a child version of that species. And though raising this child would be ideal, like Palpatine would love to just raise this child as a Sith, right? But Palpatine would have had to have waited 900 years to let this child grow, or however long it took Yoda to grow up into a teenager, right, and become strong, right? Yeah, which would Palpatine would die early on in that kid's life. So instead, he took the DNA from the child, he transferred it through the Force into Shmi Skywalker. That's the scene we saw in the comic where he's creating Anakin. Maybe he threw in some of his own DNA, to make sure that he's got Sith tendencies, whatever. And then Shmi Skywalker births this child, a human with so many midichlorians, he must be the chosen one in the eyes of the Jedi, which is exactly what Qui-Gon says in Episode 1. Palpatine then bides his time, knowing that the Jedi will find him and bring him in, so that he can slowly corrupt him into the prototype, like the perfect Sith. So Palpatine's setting up this plan. However, near the end of the Empire, so now skip way, almost up to Episode 6, as Palpatine's realizing that the Empire is going to could possibly lose. When Palpatine senses this, what do we know he's done? Well, in Rise of Skywalker, it's proven that he starts cloning himself on Exegol, right? Just in case he were to die. He could have others of himself. So Palpatine started construction on... however, my theory states that he didn't just start cloning himself, he started making other Vader suits as well, which is what we see in the episode. Knowing that the only ingredient he would need to actually make more Darth Vaders would be a cloning doctor, so someone that knows how to clone people, which is in The Mandalorian, the Dr. Pershal, that kind of like nerdy guy. He has the patch of the Camino clone facility. And then he would also need B, a Vader suit, which is potentially the weird, the weird things that was hanging up next to Moff Gideon. And he would also need a host, so a body, which could be the weird slime tanks we saw, the people in those slime tanks. And finally, the last ingredient he needs to mass create Darth Vader's, if the child's DNA is that of Anakin, he would need the original host, the child itself. So maybe that's why he's trying to grab the child to create more Anakins, in turn creating more Vaders. Now, that's my theory. It's insane. I understand, and it's probably not true, but my mind started racing after that episode, and I was like, "Ooh, I gotta hear this out. I gotta let my mind run." So, what do you think?
It seems very plausible. It seems like it could be done.
Right.
Is it though? Is the question.
Realistically, no. But I have, so far in the show, I have been surprised very often how big they are going. Because I kind
Yeah.
of thought when the show was pitched, I kind of thought it was just going to be a small Star Wars show that wasn't going to be that big of stakes. It was just going to be about the Mandalorians. But then they went, no, this is about the child who's got, then it became about the Jedi. And now it's becoming about more than that. So I don't know. I'm wondering if they're going to take that extra leap and go, oh, we're dipping into the Skywalker saga. Probably not.
Ooh, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. So I wanted to get that theory out there for anyone that actually listens to this. Again, if you made me bet on it, I absolutely wouldn't. Now, if I'm trying to calm myself and then look at that scene without letting my mind race, what it looks like is looks like Snoke in the tank. In my opinion.
No.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell. Who it was.
Well,
What it looked like.
Snoke's theme, like his theme music, which was the original music for Palpatine that was used in the original speech of the Sith and the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. That was played when you saw the tanks. So I'm assuming that's probably Snoke in that contingency plan. But they blew all those hosts up, right? At the end of the episode, they blew up that whole thing. Right. So I don't know. I'm interested. I had that theory, and I was like, oh, I need to get it out. And I couldn't wait to come on here and tell you about it. Because, yeah.
I like it.
I would love it to be true. I think that would... But then again, I probably wouldn't actually... Now that I think of that, I don't think I would like that theory. Because that means that Anakin Skywalker is that species, pretty much. Which is just...
Yeah.
And then when I think about that, I'm like, oh yeah, they're never going to do that. There's no way they'll do that. But it will kind of... It would have I don't know. It would be interesting. It would be a way to throw a wrench into a saga that we already have, thought wrapped up.
Yeah.
Which I think this show might do anyways. I mean, if you've got something like those droids that are... What are those, man? I'm looking at the picture right now. The helmet really looks like Vader, but the body looks robotic.
Share your screen, honestly.
Okay, yeah, I'll share my screen with you. Yeah. And stick with us here, anyone that's listening. We're going through this. I mean, that really... I think those look... And then here's what I was just telling you, these Dark Troopers. Again, Google them if you're listening right now. Google Dark Trooper. There should be 3 little troopers pop up. And if you look at the picture, a screen grab of the picture that was in... and I have posted it all in our group chat by the time you can hear this. So please go back in the group chat and compare these photos. Or not the group chat, the fan club. Because they're all pretty, especially this one's pretty shocking. Anyways, I know we're talking about something that the viewers can't really listen to right now, or can't see, but nevertheless, unless there's any other things you want to talk about on the end of that, I guess I do. I just rambled for a lot. I do want you to tell me what you think what that scene meant, all of that scene, and what it could mean going forward.
I was thinking about what you said, like the last couple episodes of the podcast, how Mando needs a reality check.
Right.
And I think it's coming for him. I think he's gonna get a big fat reality check once he runs in. I mean, he already kind of did when he found out that he what's his name was still alive. Guy that has the Darksaber.
Oh, Moff Gideon. Yeah.
Moff Gideon, yes. He already kind of got a reality check with that, but once he realizes that he's being tracked by him and they've got him trapped, he's gonna be like, oh shit.
Right.
So.
And again, I guess, like, I don't know. Yeah. No, I agree. I hope that reality check's coming. I think that would make me feel a lot better as a viewer. And even when he goes, oh no, Moff Gideon's dead, I killed him, I know I did. I kind of went, no, you didn't. And then I went, oh, that's right. That's what Mando would think. But in my mind, we've known, I mean, it feels like the last year in real time that we've known Moff Gideon's alive. And so that's again where I'm going, that the writing on the show is like, I don't know if incredible, right? I don't know if it's top tier like I think the visuals are, and I think a lot of the other stuff and the sound is, because when I look at the show, I think you have some of the greatest practical effects I've ever seen in my entire life, ever. You have honestly some of the top notch fight choreography I've ever seen in my life. The fighting is awesome in this show. Like, it reminds me of John Wick when it's going on. It is sweet. The music is incredible. A lot of the acting is really great as well. And then I listen to, like, scenes like that where he goes, no, Moff Gideon's dead. I killed him. And I'm like, oh, that's right. He would think that. But I would have liked, that moment would have been more impactful for me if in episode 1 he says, oh, I killed Moff Gideon or something. He brings it up. And as a fan, you go, oh, no, you didn't, dude. You don't know that you didn't, And you're like, oh, I can't tell Mando that he didn't kill him, right? And then episode 2, he says it again, right? And then you have an episode to kind of drop it. And then in episode 4, he realizes it and he catches up to you. And then you're like, dude, this is what I was trying to tell you in episode 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like that would have made that moment, like, have a lot more weight for me. Maybe that's why it felt a little bit flat to me. I couldn't really realize why, because, like, my brain was telling me, this is big, Ryan, this is a crazy moment, you should get excited, but there was something in me that was just not, I just wasn't revved up like I was, I guess, for Boba Fett and for some of the, and season 1, a lot of stuff in season 1. So, well, we'll definitely be back next week. I mean, next week's, I bet big it's going to be Ahsoka. Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, Dave Filoni's directing it, and Dave Filoni notoriously does not let anyone lay a finger on Ahsoka Tano without him knowing about it. Like, that's his baby. He said once that no one can put Ahsoka Tano on screen unless he approves it. So, because he created the character. So I'm assuming there's one episode in the season he's directing. I got a feeling that's going to be her episode. So
yeah,
I'm very, very excited to see Ahsoka Tano on the big screen. I mean, gosh, I've waited so long to see her. I mean, I guess I never really thought about it being a possibility until recently, until Disney Plus started getting a lot of steam. But yeah, it goes back to, again, I do love this show because if you would have told me 5 years ago, right, hey, Ahsoka Tano's going to be live action, I would have paid so much money to see that. It would be ridiculous. So, all right, well, we'll be back for next week's episode. I'm pretty excited. Yeah, we're halfway through. I'm assuming it's going to be an 8 to 10 episode season. So, assuming I think last season was 8. Assuming this is 8 as well. How would you say this season is going so far? Quick review before we head out of here.
I don't think it's going as good as last season. I think last season around this time, they had me hooked a little bit more,
Right. Yeah, I had yeah, definitely.
I think it's not quite as good yet, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's a lot of setting up, like in volleyball, how you set someone, like you set it and then the person spikes it. I feel like it's been like 4 or 5 sets this season, and those balls are all hanging in the air, and I'm like, all right, let's start spiking one. Let's spike. I want to see you spike one. Something like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels like all these balls are floating, and it's like, which one's gonna knock down first? And I kind of hope that it's, instead of, you pop one and then you just wait another 4 episodes, you pop another. I hope it's like all those balls start falling down at the exact same time, and it just rolls into the next 4 episodes are chaos, and it is everything unfolding that we've wanted to see, right?
Yep. I agree.
All right. Well, we'll be back. Thanks for tuning in to Cantina Talk again. We're halfway through this thing, and I'm enjoying getting on and reviewing these with you. So thank you.
Of course.
All right. May the Force be with you.
Always and forever.